Hello everybody and welcome into the Grindstone Development's Late Model Stock Tour, live tonight from Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, and thank you all so much for tuning in. You're watching Austin Green on PGR eSports, getting to that halfway point in the season for a couple of drivers. Crucial race in terms of point standings. We'll talk about that all coming up, but before we do, let's get right down track side as qualifying is complete. Drivers are getting gridded up, and we're getting ready to get this thing rolling here tonight. Taking the pole, the man who will start front row tonight on the inside, Bryce Rayner in the 87. Wasn't here last week, so he's got some work to do trying to catch the 55 in the point standings. Notice to his outside, the man that we just mentioned, the 55. That's James Harris. He'll roll off from the outside pole here tonight in a second. Jason Ethery starts back from the third spot in the number 34 car. Kevin Kirchard back in fourth. It'll be Brad Thacker rolling off fifth in the number 56 machine here tonight. To his outside, William Mann Jr. in 6th with Charles Whitehead for Whitehead Racing in 7th. Eli Child's going to be race control tonight, so ignore that. But back in the 8th spot is going to actually be Chris Logan. And moving up one spot for Kevin Ward as well. He will start in 9th. All right, taking a look at your race info here tonight. By the way, I want to note, you notice a small field. James Harris mentioning, not sure if it was something to do with the track choice, the weather, something of that nature, but nonetheless, we're still going to have a great race getting ready to be put on by these guys. Again, we are at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park. This track just over a half a mile in total length, not quite making it to the 3/4 mile marker. But you notice we're going to still go 125 laps tonight. Same distance as all the other races so far this season. 100% fuel as always. You've got those 2 tire sets in the pits. 1 fast repair if you do need to use it. And then fixed setups, 2 green-white checkers to go along with those as well. Track temp here tonight going to start out in the upper 70s. You notice in the sim, upper 70s as well. Partly cloudy skies. Calm winds only 2 miles an hour. Not going to be an issue with that. Cars are getting rolling, so we will get ready to drop the green flag. 2 pace laps before we do get rolling for the iRacing.com pace car. By the way, quick update for anybody tuning in. PGR eSports on YouTube. How about this? Just hitting 1,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it. Looking forward to hopefully a whole lot more in the future. One last thing that I want to mention here just before we go green is, again, the point standings coming into this race. James Harris won last week, and for James Harris, that actually marks his 3rd win of the season as he continues his domination after a championship last season. So he currently leads in the point standings, but it's Jason Nethery 2nd in points, John Thacker 3rd, Aaron Longworth 4th, Jason Machad 5th. And for Bryce Rayner here in terms of points, after not making that race last week, he has fallen all the way back to 13th. He's almost 40 points down from James Harris. So, yeah, he's got a lot of work to do here. Let's see if he's able to potentially try to close that gap up here tonight. All right, here we go. The music's going to die down, and the engines are getting ready to roar to life. Lucas Oil IRP talked about getting to that middle portion of the season. Can James Harris make it 2 in a row tonight? Can he make it win number 4 on the season, or can Rayner get back on track? Let's find out. Here we go. Green flag in the air. We are racing at Lucas Oil. So far, so good down the back straightaway, but boy, James Harris, only driver there to potentially have some sort of issue. Not the restart he wanted here on the first lap. Rayner's going to lead them all back to the line, but you can see still a little 2x2 back there for the 3rd spot. That's a battle between Brad Thacker and Kevin Kirchard. Kirchard on the outside. Another race note here. James Harris was talking with me a little bit about before the race started. He said, a lot of guys like to run the middle here, but notice that it does have progressive banking. It means the higher up you go on the racetrack, the more banking there is. And so we'll see if anybody is able to try to utilize that on the outside. But normally when we go to the short tracks, especially at nighttime with a cool track temp, it's just really difficult to get much speed out of that 3rd lane. But you notice right now, Kevin Kirchard still making it work here a little bit, defending the 55 from the outside position. Harris here going to try to roll clear in the middle of the corner, and he'll do just that. Clears the 91 up on exit and moves him back inside the top 5. Bryce Rayner, though, continues to lead. Let's go back and look at this restart here and see what went wrong here for James Harris. See, as they work into the restart zone, everybody hits the gas, no wheel spin. You wouldn't really expect much of it in these cars either, so it's some issue that happens as they get into the corner here. Oh, man. Rayner gets up the track. That would describe that issue, and that actually gets Harris up into the wall. He catches it, but in the process, he loses a ton of ground. So that was certainly an interesting start to the race for the number 55. Back up again, though, inside the top 5 now. Really for Rayner here, I think this is going to be one of those races where it's going to be tough to run away, especially in the short run. Even as we get into the medium portion and long run, I'd be curious to see if these guys really create much separation. I think right now, Nethery and Thacker have got just as good of a car, if not a little better here, than the 87, but they're trying to find a way around. That's always the tough thing to do. Oh, trouble. Thacker around. He's going to take Nethery with him. Big hit. Oh, man, the 34 backs it in hard after the caution was out. For the first time here tonight, we will rack him up here and try again on a restart. Early caution. Not the way you expected it to happen. The top 3 where it seemed like even though these guys were battling hard, they had it single filed out pretty much there until they got into turn 1 and 2. Let's go back and look at it here. And again, this all starts here between Thacker and Jason Nethery, and I'm going to assume here it's either a little bit of netcode or Thacker coming up the track. Let's see which one it is. See, Thacker's in the middle, and he's holding the middle. Actually, I'd take it back. Brad Thacker not coming up the track at all. It's a 34 of Nethery trying to get that arc, and as he gets back down the track here, not sure if he's expecting the 56 to also kind of be arcing it down at that point or what, but Thacker's got that line established, and it almost looks like there may have been just a little bit of netcode that catches the 34 on the right front of Brad Thacker, but I think regardless here, you could argue that there was a good chance there was going to be some contact anyway. And I'll show you this here from the chopper view. Now watch here. You see Nethery, he's coming down the track. And right there, yeah, whether there was contact or not, there was certainly going to be some. It was just a matter of time, but see that sends the 34 around. He goes up, gets tagged again. There's the big hit for Thacker, and then Nethery just never able to quite get on the brakes there and cost himself a lot more damage than what he was initially going to have. Let's go to the onboard view here. This is for Jason Nethery, and I want you to watch this view here. Actually, we'll go to the gearbox view and go all the way back to where this contact starts here between him and Thacker. You see the 56 there on the bottom. It starts to go down. By the way, James Harris had nowhere to go. He actually gets into the the 34 right there. And here you go. Big hit to the inside concrete right there. Didn't leave a whole lot of space for error, I guess, but right here, notice he lets it roll, and that's what does all the damage. So Thacker, I don't know if he'll have to use a fast spare. Really same idea for Jason Nethery. I mean, he still hit it square in the back. Obviously, you don't need a ton of aero for these kind of tracks in these cars, but I still would worry that was a significant enough amount of damage where maybe he chooses to take the fast spare. We'll have to wait and see. Nonetheless, though, getting ready to go back green here. And just like that, the 87 of Bryce Rayner hits the loud pedal. Green flag back in the air, 10 laps in the books. And for Rayner, he's going to dive clear of everybody down through turn 1 and 2. Up to third, by the way, William Mann Jr. rocking a different color scheme here tonight. Good looking paint for him. All the way in the back here, Charles Whitehead trapped on the inside. As you see James Harris starting to try to move that groove up just a little higher here in the opening laps of this restart. Him, Thacker, and Nethery, 3 of the fastest cars on the track. We've got to get some track position back, and it's going to take a couple laps here for that middle to come back in. And interesting right there, you saw how high up Thacker was. So really trying to get this top line working here. Watch this again. This time it's actually the 70 of Chris Logan who finds himself almost pinned against the outside wall. And what that does for you, too, is it gets you the momentum on exit of the corner. Obviously, on entry, the guy on the bottom gets a big advantage, but it almost seems like they're running that first seam or first dotted line, if you will, as kind of what would be the apron at most short tracks. That's kind of where you want to enter, and then depending on what line you take through the corner, either hug that white line or try to get up by the wall and then hug it on exit. Either way, for the driver out of the great state of Texas, Brad Thacker, currently sitting in that 7th spot. And by the way, we do have one of the drivers that is carrying an onboard view for us here tonight, and that is none other than the man who leads the championship standings right now. That is the 55, James Harris. There you see the onboard view. And for Harris right now, closing up here on the 112 of Kevin Ward. So for Harris, we'll be checking in a couple times tonight. Boy, wish we had a pedal cam for some of these short tracks, because that's really where most of the work gets done. But as I mentioned there, Kevin Ward in the 112 getting ready to lose the spot. Good to see Ward back on track here tonight. One of the veterans from the series. We've seen him dating back to the truck series for these guys. As he made a little contact right there to the outside safer barrier. You notice that Chris Logan was able to sneak by through that. Boy, Ward here really now starting to beat and bang off the outside wall. I think he's really trying to ship it in here. Car just not biting for him. You gotta be careful. Again, you can skim that wall a few times, but getting into it one too many times start to cause some significant damage to the right side of this race car. Back up front, Bryce Rayner continues to lead. He's got himself just under a half a second gap over second place Kevin Kirchar. For Kevin Kirchar right here, notice at the 91, and you know, I didn't really get to talk about this last week. Things still didn't quite end maybe the way he would have liked to, as Rayner, a couple of internet hiccups right there, but it seems to me like Kevin Kirchar has actually been starting to really find some pace here over the last couple of weeks. The only thing that's been missing has been the ability to actually finish the race. Kirchar's had a couple of rough run-ins here, but again, usually the speed comes first. The consistency is usually soon to follow. So if Kirchar here can stay out of some of the chaos that seems like he's been involved in so many of these weeks, make it to the end of one of these races, I think he's got a good shot at potentially grabbing a podium, if not contending for a win. Let's see how it pans out for him here tonight. William Mann Jr. in the 29. He's up a couple of positions from where he started this race at. James Harris going to take a spot from him right there, coming off turn 2. That pushes Harris now back inside the podium. The good news for Harris is that the guys that were similar on pace to him earlier, Brad Thacker, Jason Nethery, they're still trapped here behind some traffic towards the middle of the pack. So they have not been able to gain much. And for Kevin Ward here, he has still been shipping this thing off into the corner. He's got that kind of Ross Chastain look, where he send it in, getting up against the wall, but obviously he's not doing it intentionally. There's the 34 Nethery. Quick note on him. Not sure if this has to do with some of the lack of speed here from what we just saw earlier in the race, but notice he does still have a significant amount of damage on the left side and even maybe some there on the rear of the car. So it looks like he elected to not take the fast repair. Interesting choice here for Nethery. I got to assume that means he's going to save it and likely take it either on a later yellow or potentially the only green flag pit stop that we would potentially see during this race. And for Kirchar here, as he runs that top, it almost is starting to seem like a lot of guys are shifting up there. And the reason I mention that is because if everybody's up there, it's going to be really difficult to make any sort of pass work. And in general, that outside always the more defensive line, if you will. But James Harris here going to take a look to the inside. Kirchar left the door open. It's not quite going to be able to shut it again as they get into turn 1. We'll see here, Harris has got to make this pass complete within the next couple of laps. Don't want to wear out those tires too much. You see the 29 of William Mann Jr. going to try to follow him through. Kirchar, gets into the wall. That's going to certainly be the mistake that cost him 2, 3, 4, almost 5 positions back now. As everybody went by right there as the 91 got into the wall, and that's the other problem. You know, when you make contact with the fence like that, especially if you're running up front, even in the middle of the pack, it's kind of like a freight train waiting behind you, and it's so hard to get that momentum back in the span of a couple of corners. It's a very rhythm-based racetrack, and for James Harris, that's another thing I want to point out because we actually heard him mention that last week. He said, you know, he feels like he's such a rhythm-based driver, and all these short tracks with this car combo are so rhythm-based that once you find that rhythm, it's kind of like getting in a zone in any other sport where once you're in that zone, you feel almost undefeatable. But getting in that zone, obviously very tough to do, and as soon as you get kicked out of the zone, sometimes hard to get back into it. But notice the track map up there in the top right of your screen. We're also going to pull up dashboard telemetry here for Bryce Rayner. Talk about some of the speeds these guys run here. You notice just under 100 miles an hour in the corner. And then down the straightaways here, not as long as some of the tracks we've been to, but they still top out right around that 120 mile an hour marker. And this is even after they've already put a little bit of wear on the tires. Just like that though, already 1/5 of the way through this race. For Bryce Rayner, he has led them all so far. Harris with a hiccup, maybe a little altercation, although I would call it a friendly one there on the opening lap of this race. Sent Harris to the back. Saw a caution, cost Harris a little bit more track position, but here he is trying to get it back up. If you're just tuning in, we appreciate you watching. We're watching the Grindstone Development's late model stock tour here on PGR eSports. Meeks Motorsports, which I assume is Tyler Meeks, says, get after them, William Mann Jr., give them the man slam. Well, I'll tell you what, William Mann Jr.'s been doing pretty good so far here tonight. He's got himself in that 3rd position. So the 29 continuing to fight for what could potentially be one of his best finishes so far of the season. And of course, last week was Martinsville, a track that in the late models, ironically enough, kind of feels like the equivalent of a super speedway just because there's so much throttle time there. And here tonight, Lucas Oil, kind of another bigger track. But then, in the weeks coming up, we're going to be starting to talk about a couple of tracks that maybe get a little more technical. Slinger Speedway, one of those, as is Five Flags. And Five Flags, of course, the final race of the season. We'll detail out the schedule here as we get later into the night. But, well, I'll tell you what, in the back of your screen right there, you just saw it, and you'll see him again here. Coming down the straight, Brad Thacker had a massive moment coming off of turn 4. It looked like he got really, really loose. He's able to catch the car, but still finds himself trapped here behind the 91 of Kevin Kirchar, who he initially got by, but since fallen. So 56 continues to struggle. Not able to get the track position back that he had early on. Notice in the cockpit view, listen to the throttle time for these guys. I mean, you hear a brief lift here as they get into the corner, but by the time they're to the middle of the corner, it's pretty much you're already getting back on the gas. And Thacker, though, he looks like he's out of rhythm. You can hear he wasn't really able to get the throttle down and kind of keep it there. So maybe continuing to either search around for some grip or handling of that car just not where he wants it, but he's not going to be able to make any mechanical adjustments. He's either going to have to wait till he gets some fresh tires or potentially hope for a caution here. Jason Nethery now looks like he's maybe starting to figure out the rhythm a little bit more, as Thacker will once again dive to the inside of 91, and boy, that time there's some contact. I don't know if Thacker meant to do that or not, but boy, that certainly looked like a little bit of a get the heck out of the way. Let's see if Kevin Kirchar tries to give him a little shit back here down into the corner. He's not going to be able to get there. I think Thacker was just really loose in. Again, talk about him struggling with the handling of that race car right now. But Chris Logan about to run for the number 70 right now. No strategy yet to be played this race, so this is all natural track position gained here for the driver out of Hillsboro. Chris Logan now at 5 positions from where he started this race at. And that Chevy SS late model, he's going to be potentially looking for a little bit more. If Logan keeps his pace up, he could be quickly closing in on the back bumper of William Mann Jr. And for Logan here, he's going with just the conservative approach. Notice he's hugging that first stripe line, trying to conserve those Goodyear tires, and if he's able to keep it up that way, then he may even have even more speed than what he's got now in the late run as this thing continues on. So that's Chris Logan here, and briefly pulling up the UI here just to get you back to full screen, but 35 of 125 laps complete. I know we talked about only 9 drivers in this race. All 9 of them, though, still on the lead lap, and the other thing that means is that with only 9 cars, lap traffic likely not going to be a huge issue here tonight. I think we could potentially see some of it, especially as we start to get into the later portion of this race, especially if it's able to go green that long. But even with that one caution we've had tonight, I still think we see a green flag pit stop. Just more so a question of when do you decide to make that stop. I'd be shocked, though, if anybody tried to make it more than a one-stop strategy. I think you go in somewhere either halfway or a little bit after, take your gas, potentially take tires. This is a little bit bigger of some of the short tracks that we go to. And then stay out the rest of the way. Harris here currently sitting in second, still chasing after the 87 Rainer, but he's closed the gap. Now within about 0.3 of a second behind the back bumper of the 87. And if you're James Harris, you got to already be thinking, what do you do once you get there? I would assume there's probably not going to be any contact yet between these two. But I definitely think it's going to be a very tough pass to make here as go to kind of the tail cam here for James Harris, and watch kind of the difference in the lines that run into the corner. Notice that Rayner's a little bit more of an aggressive entry, but he's able to get a slightly bigger arc off. Harris kind of the opposite. Harris enters a little bit lower, gets up in the center of the corner, but he's not able to arc it down quite as much. But that is a more conservative line, so the idea here could be that maybe if you're Rayner, you start wearing out your tires too soon, and Harris could be potentially looking to pounce here over the course of the next couple of laps. And for Bryce Rainey, you notice he's got the Impact Design sponsor on board. Sim Designs, to be more specific. Good looking yellow and black car for Bryce Rainer here tonight. Harris trying to change it up a little bit. You see he went all the way down to the bottom of the racetrack that time. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to necessarily make anything too crazy happen at the moment. But he is going to try to continue wrapping the bottom. Further back, there's Chris Logan. Jason Nethery, by the way, has actually now broken back into the top 5. Kevin Kirchar also was able to find his way back around the 56 of Brad Thacker. Charles Whitehead back in 8th. It's Kevin Ward. Currently finds himself in that 9th position. And for Bryce Rayner right here, 41 laps complete, so we're still probably, I'd say, at least 20-ish laps away before we'd even be talking about that first pit stop. Maybe more so 30 laps away. I think you really got to defend the 55 here with about everything you've got. Again, especially now that you're this far in the run, I get the idea if it was earlier on, you say maybe I'll let him go and try to track him back down later. But from what it seemed like so far, I think Harris is better. And if the 55 gets by, he may hoist the sails and absolutely pull away from the field. So for Rayner's sake here, I think if you can defend him as long as you possibly can here, if we're close enough to the pit stop, maybe you make the pit stop, maybe you try to change the line you run on those fresher tires. Maybe you got something for the 55 of Harris, but in order to do that, obviously you got to be able to keep him within striking distance. So far, the 87 seems to be doing that with no problems. Kevin Ward now getting ready to potentially lose a lap as he has fallen to over 20 seconds back from the leader. Nethery's still kind of running that high entry but low exit line, and it's working out pretty good for him here. Nethery's still over 4.5 seconds back from the leader, but we'll keep tabs on that here to see if even with that damaged car, he's potentially able to start trying to make his way back up here through the field. So half a second now the distance between first and second. Maybe Rayner had been saving a little something in the tank. I thought Harris was the driver that was running the more conservative line, but again, it seems like Rayner has maybe found a little something here just over the course of the last lap or so. Actually, we can show you that here on the time delta. As we pull that up here, another thing I want you to notice is the weather. So first of all here, and I know this is a little bit overlaid, but go ahead and actually take the weather off here for just a moment. Let's start with the time delta. You notice over the last 2 laps, actually, yeah, that's where Rayner got that advantage back over the 55 of James Harris. Then bringing up the weather here. Notice again, track temp, still 78 degrees, so that has not changed much. In fact, actually, it's bumped up to 79, but you get the idea. Still plenty cool enough that I would assume tire fall off can't be all that much. Grip-wise, it looks like it's been pretty good for most guys here tonight. The only driver that I've seen really struggling with the handling has been Thacker, but you see the 87 here of Rayner trying to get by the 112 of Ward. Looks like for Kevin Ward here, he'll let the leader go by without too much of a race to stay on the lead lap. I take it back. I said lead lap. Kevin Ward has actually fallen 3 laps down, so I must have missed something in there because he was on the lead lap. Unless our timing's messed up. I'm not sure why that scored him 3 down all of a sudden. Maybe he had to go in for a pit stop. That would certainly explain the quicker loss in track position. But James Harris now, not sure if he had a big hiccup there coming off the corner, but all of a sudden he's lost a ton of ground. And as he has not been able to catch back up to the 112 of Kevin Ward just yet. And for Bryce Rayner, this is the unfortunate part here, especially as the season goes on. And we've heard guys talk about this here now for a couple of seasons. It doesn't matter what series you run. It always seems like attendance in general kind of goes down the later you get into the season. But especially on a night like tonight, for Bryce Rayner, comes back and let's just say he wins the race. Unfortunately, there's not that many points that he's going to be able to pick up on James Harris for 2 reasons. Number one, because, well, first of all, there's not that many cars in the field. So let's just say Harris had a bad night, finishes 9th. That means the most points that Bryce Rayner can gain on the 55 of Harris is only 9 points. So I know I said at the start of the show that it was a bounce-back race for Bryce Rayner, which it is. He'd like to obviously get back in victory lane, but always makes the point standings weird in cases like this. I know James Harris obviously has 3 wins on the season, but for a guy like Bryce Rayner to have a win on the season and be as far back in points as he stands right now, it's going to actually make it pretty tough on him to try to get back into the battle here, at least points-wise. Even if, again, he starts to rack up some of these wins. And then, of course, the other reason being that if James Harris does have a good run tonight, finishes 2nd, it doesn't really matter how many cars you have in the field. You could have 40. You're not going to gain those 40 points. You're only going to gain a point on him. So similar to what we saw last season, even though we're only, again, about at the halfway point in the season, Harris has already kind of started to do that thing where he's got such a big lead on everybody else that as the field starts to dwindle down, it doesn't matter much. All Harris has got to do is stay consistent. He's got a good chance of bringing home that championship. The 2 drivers, though, that I would say are still definitely in the mix is Jason Nethery and Brad Thacker. Jason Nethery came into this race 7 points behind, make it 6 rather, points behind the 55 of Harris. Brad Thacker came in 9 points behind the 55 of Harris. So those 2 definitely still in the mix. I mean, you figure with the amount of cars we have in the field tonight, technically either one of them could take the lead in points if Harris had a bad night. But if you're Jason Nethery here, I mean, looking at where he runs right now, I think he obviously needs to get as close as he can to Harris. But if you're within probably, I'd say 4 to 7 points, you've got a shot, especially knowing that we still got half the season to go. So don't count out Jason Nethery, not yet. Don't count out Brad Thacker either in that 56 machine. I'll tell you what, though, the Sunoco colored number 56 has struggled tonight. Looked great in that opening run until we got that caution. Since then, the 56 has been struggling to find any sort of speed. You notice the right front and right side damage there. He's been in the outside wall a few times here over the course of this run so far, which has now been getting close to about 50 laps. And so we're going to be starting to talk about that green flag pit stop here potentially sometime in the next 10, 15-ish laps. Maybe a little bit more. Just all depends on the strategy that each one of these guys decides to roll with. But Bryce Rayner has figured it out. I don't know if he was saving or if he's just found the speed now, but he has got that gap up to over 3 seconds as Kevin Ward has now fallen 8 laps down. You see him coming back out of the pits, so the issues unfortunately continuing here for the 112 car. Bryce Rayner, though, seeing a little bit of side-by-side way out the back right there. And actually a 3-car, maybe 4-car battle getting ready to shape up. Nethery has found some pace, continues to close in on the leaders. In the meantime, you've got William Mann Jr. trying to fend him off. Oh, watch out. That's going to get tight. Oh, man, almost some contact right there between Mann Jr. and then the 34 of Jason Nethery. They're going to try again. Not going to make it happen this time. The 55 of Harris is watching all this in his mirror, and they're catching him now. Looking to the inside. Goes William Mann Jr. here into turn 1. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to quite get there. Maybe on exit? No. Harris is actually going to be able to fight him off right there. This is arguably the best battling that we've seen so far here tonight outside of that first run. Got to be so careful. Again, it flattens out really quickly here as soon as you get onto the straights, and so enticing to obviously slam the gas as soon as you're coming off the corner, but gotta be careful that you don't get tight and up into the car on the outside or into the wall. And you can tell for William Mann Jr., at least right here, he looks faster, but again, it's that he can't quite get the gas down to stay even with the 55 of Harris on exit of the corner without worrying about potentially getting tight and getting up into him. It looks like Nethery once again here going to look to the inside. These guys flirting with 3 wide here through the corner. Nethery running that very low line. Tough to make it stick, but he does make it happen. Nethery going to hold even into 3. That's a big move. Oh, man, William Mann Jr., though, shipped it in. Nethery's looking for a little bit lower of an exit here. If he can get clear the 29, I think he's got a good shot here at the 55, but give some credit to William Mann Jr. He's defending really, really well right now. See the 34 looking to the inside once again, but notice as soon as they hit the straightaway, that outside line gets all the momentum. That's what keeps pulling William Mann Jr. back even every single time. Almost 3 wide. They're flirting with it. Oh, man, and just like that, caution is out for the second time tonight. I saw Whitehead into the outside wall, but it looks like it's Kevin Ward here potentially that had the issues. Only driver that I'm seeing data from right now that either had an off track or a slowdown of some sort. It comes just in time as we have crossed the halfway point here at Lucas Oil IRP. Let's back and look at it here and see if for Kevin Ward, was this indeed the issue is the question. Was it somewhere else? Let's see. Here's the 112 going through turn. I can't tell if it's 3 and 4 here. He's going through a 1 and 2. I don't see any issues there for Kevin Ward. It almost makes me think, was that a separate incident here? For Kevin Ward, this was a different lap, and gets loose. Not really, maybe a little bit, but as he gets into turn 1, it looks okay there as well. Oh, he blinks out briefly. That sends him through the grass, although I can't tell if that was the caution or not. Oh, there you go. Bryce Rayner says competition caution. Well, that answers that question. Don't have any replays to go back and look at. Excuse me, don't have any replays to go back and look at because there was no incident. So it sounds like a race control decision to add a competition caution because things were getting pretty spread out there and you've got a small field. So this is helping give these guys all a shot to at least try to get back into it here. I like it. I was never a fan of competition cautions when you had a big field and there was strategy in play, but get a smaller field like this, again, love to see it. Keeps these guys close-knit and keeps the racing pretty good, which it has been so far tonight. By the way, only second caution. That's, I guess, the positive trade-off you get with these smaller fields is a lot cleaner racing in general. So now that we're past the halfway point, everybody going to go in for fuel tires, and looking like this could potentially be just under 60 lap race to the finish with no green flag stops expected. So lights are off on the pace car here. I'll tell you what, we're getting ready to go back green. Let's see if we can bring in Bryce Rayner for a quick interview, see how he's feeling mid-race. Hey Bryce, this is Austin up in the booth. Got a copy?
Yeah, I got you, Austin.
We saw in chat there, you letting us know that it was a competition caution, which is obviously interesting here for a couple of reasons. I know it's a small field, but it does change up the strategy a little bit for some of these guys. First question is, do you feel confident you can make it to the end? And if so, what becomes the mindset here to try to get a race win tonight?
Yeah, the mindset is going to be tough here. Jason's on 2 right now, so if I can clear him, it'd be great. You know, we were all very, very much spread out, so we all kind of wanted to throw it all back together and re-rack them and see what happens, and throw a Hail Mary with all these guys. So it's going to be a blast here. We're going to get ready to go green here in a second. So it'll be a good show.
Absolutely. Bryce, thanks for talking to us. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks.
All right, there you go. Bryce Rayner says, hey, it's a Hail Mary. Let's see if we can tighten things up and see how it goes. Well, let's see right now. Here we go. Green flag back in the air. 68 of 125 laps complete at Lucas Oil. Boy, great restart for Nethery. You heard he's on those 2 tires, so whatever advantage he can get here in the first couple of laps is going to be huge. Meanwhile, side by side here between the 55 and the 87. Looks like further back, either Kevin Ward or Charles Whitehead, one of the 2 off track. But everybody keeps it together here in the 55 of Harris. Whoa, man, gets into the door of Bryce Rayner. More contacts as they race down the straightaway right there. Rayner gets up the track. Harris getting aggressive. He knows he wants this track position now. Well, he's got the chance. Jason Nethery creating some distance right now. You notice the gap currently up to over half a second. And we're going to see if we can actually refresh our scoring right quick, because it has definitely been off here. See James Harris pop up. Go ahead and mute that again. And there we go. Well, looks like SDK not going to refresh the scoring completely. Hey, nonetheless, though, up front here, Jason Nethery continues to have a very, very solid run going tonight. After that incident, talked about him losing a little bit of track position, but he's figured it out pretty quickly here. So obviously that's good news for the driver, the number 34. Is now we'll give it an official refresh, and there you go. Just like that, scoring is fixed, and again, gap still half a second. Brad Thacker, by the way, has fallen a lap down. Kevin Ward 8 laps down, and Charles Whitehead here finding some struggles on this restart. Looks like he's actually going to bring it into the pits here, either for some repairs, for some service, or a combination of the 2. So the 51 goes in. Meanwhile, the 55, talked about him being able to get around Bryce Rayner, and now looks like the 29 of William Mann Jr. maybe trying to play chase on these 2. If they can get to that lap 75 marker, that marks 50 laps to go. One thing I'll say for especially Nethery here, from what we kind of heard from the races we've seen this season, tire fall off in the short run, not a very big difference between, say, no tires and 4 tires, 2 tires, 4 tires. It's when you get into the long run that you really start to notice that difference. And so I would assume here that for Harris and Rayner, at some point, they're going to be able to start to chase down this 34. But at the same time, for Jason Nethery here, I would be more than easily to say impressed if he's able to go out and continue to stretch a gap on these 2 guys for the next 50 laps, knowing that he's only on 2 tires. It seems like a pretty big ask out of the car, but it did get him the track position, and certainly showing how valuable that has been so far here tonight. And at some point, if you're Rayner and Harris here, you got to sort this out, right? I mean, you keep battling each other. You almost wonder, are you going to start to let that 34 try to sneak away? And for Rayner right here, it looks like he's really, really close, especially on exit of the corner. It looks like he loses a little bit through entry in the middle of the corner, but then on exit, he's able to get that big arc. That's where he starts to make up some of that time back. So 76 here of 125 laps complete. Jason Nethery continues to lead the field. Battle for second still underway between James Harris and Bryce Rayner. William and Jr. hanging in tough too, as well as the 91 of Kevin Kirchar. I feel like the story for him tonight has been phenomenal short run speed, but a little bit more struggles when it came to the long run. And so far, though, in this run, he's been pretty good. He's got himself inside the top 5. Overall tonight, a pretty good run going. Only down one spot from where he started this race at. And Chris Logan just behind him. And then again, Brad Thacker, we knew about being a lap down. Charles Whitehead has also now fallen a lap down. And Kevin Ward here back in the pits. And I wonder if maybe he's decided to call it a night for his night. And oh boy, here we go. Battle shaping up again between Rayner and Harris. Can't take the camera off of these two. A little bit more contact there as Rayner slides up into the left side door. And oh man, Harris saw that coming. Look at this. A little bit of gamesmanship between two of the veterans. And that might be the coolest move we've seen all night. Harris saw that coming from a mile away. And if you notice what he did right there, he actually checked up more than you normally would through the center of the corner, because he said, hey, listen, I know what you're doing. You're going to get tight, though. Watch this. I'm going to cross you right back over. And that move was executed to absolute perfection. Let's go on board here with James Harris for just a moment. His apologies. Popped up the sponsor logo there for just a moment, but there is the onboard view for James Harris. And again, having a great run right now, trying to chase down the 34. The gap between those two is still over half a second, though, at the moment. Now, still 45 laps to go. And with that gap, I would say still plenty of time, but obviously you got to be careful here. You don't want to mess around for too long. For James Harris here, he's got to get a little breathing room between himself and Bryce Rayner first if he really wants to go and complete the chase down on that 34. Now, lap traffic could be the other wild card, but as we said earlier tonight, there's not going to be much in the form of lap traffic, just not really enough cars on the racetrack. And for Charles Whitehead here, you can see he is about half a track length behind everybody else, but even so, it's still going to be a fair amount of laps before they would track down that 51 and have to worry about potentially getting by him. For Rayner here, who's now settled into that third spot. Tell you what, William Mann Jr. seems like he's kind of stalking in the footprints right here. Part of me almost wonders if he feels like he's got a little bit more speed than these guys and he's just trying to hang tight until we get to a point where it feels like they've worn their stuff out. For James Harris, this is what it looks like basically out of the rearview mirror. And you notice it's hard to really get focused on chasing the guy down in front when you've got to watch your mirror this much. Bryce Rayner is really applying the pressure here. Oh, and 87 is going to try a similar move to what Harris did on him here, but the 55 slipped up on exit. That gave Rayner a little bit of a run to close it in, but he's not going to have enough to dive to the inside in turn 1. And oh man, for Jason Nethery, you wonder, have we finally hit that point now in this run? Hasn't been that many laps yet, but that point where all of a sudden those two tires are really starting to show the wear. As you see, the 55 of Harris has now closed it in under 0.2 of a second on the race leader. For Jason Nethery, I'd say either way, the strategy he decided to go with is great. And remember, the only guy that he's trying to beat is the 55 of Harris, because as he sits second in the point standings, Harris leads by, we talked about it, 6 points. So if Jason Nethery can win tonight, obviously he gains some ground on Harris. But if he can't win, nothing else, he's got to at least finish as close to him as he possibly can. And so that gap now trying to stretch out once again. Bryce Rayner may be setting up for another move here. And 55 of Harris, yes he is. He'll go to the inside. It'll be interesting here as they get into the center of the corner. Oh man, Bryce does the slider. Harris sees it coming. So maybe that's the new move we're going to start seeing now. The slide job, famous at a couple of tracks. Bristol, arguably one of the most famous tracks to have it done, but oh boy, Harris here. He knows Rayner got to the outside. Going to have to use him up a little bit. Some more contact. Now they hit into the fence. Still side by side though. As they work off into turn 3, James Harris really working with those Goodyear tires to try to get all he can get right here. More contact. Now the 87 Rayner is going to come off the fence a little bit and rough the 55 up. Lets him know, hey man, listen, I know we're teammates, but I'm there. You got to give me a little bit of room to work with. And so Bryce Rayner will now take that position back once again. It'd be interesting to see here if James Harris can get a run. Does he try the same move on Rayner that Rayner just tried on him? That's that crossover again. You've got to get a good run off the corner before. If you can do that, you get right up to the back bumper of the guy, you dive low, send it in, stay on the gas until you get clear, and then as soon as you get clear, hard on the brakes, checking up, and trying to get in whatever line that guy is going to be running through the center of the corner. See if you can hold him up and keep it going on exit. But we're now closing in on 35 laps to go. Notice for James Harris here, starting to struggle. William Mann Jr.'s closed the gap on him. Kevin Kirchar closing up on this lead pack as well. But it's still a half a second advantage for Jason Ethery, who continues to lead here at Lucas Oil. We're going to take a quick break. We'll go side by side so you don't miss a thing. Stick with us as we'll be coming back with close to 100 laps in the books here at Lucas Oil.
I played a couple of simulators and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
Make you feel like you're really driving, it feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
Three by three.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it at the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to Lucas Oil IRP, closing in on what will be 27 laps to go here at the famous just over half a mile, coming in at just under 3/4. And I apologize. I know my voice has gotten a little scratchy here tonight, but nonetheless, the race has been a ton of fun to commentate here. You notice that little contact towards the back. Kevin Kirchar in the wall once again. Chris Logan trying to take advantage. And in front of them, see William Mann Jr., but James Harris has been able to create a little bit more of a gap once again on that 29 car. And the battle for the lead and potentially the race win setting up. That time it's going to be the 34 Nethery, who is just a little bit faster, but overall Rayner has been tracking him down. For Bryce Rayner right here, big opportunity is, see the internet hiccuping on him just a little bit. Now, if those two get into it really at all, I would say, I think Harris has got a shot at potentially trying to track them back down. But otherwise, unless we, of course, get a caution, I think this is really just a race between these two. And I'll say it once again, but if Jason Nethery can fend off this 87, especially now that we've gotten into the longer run, for the next 25 laps on 2 old tires compared to Bryce Rayner having 4 brand new tires, I'd be beyond impressed. And even notice the 34's got some damage, which again doesn't affect him much, but it still has some impact, and I think that would potentially change the game of the race. But oh, here we go. He's setting up the move. Question here is Rayner going to pull the slide job, or is he just going to try to get to the inside and hold it there? Let's see. He sends it off into the corner. He's going to try the slide job again. Rayner up the track, completes it, but can the 34 Nethery cross him over? He does, but Rayner's able to hold the momentum on the outside. Now he's going to have the defensive lane. And oh man, I almost think if you're Nethery right there, you should have probably tried to ship it in. Same move that Rayner just pulled on you. But now the 87's got it. He's going to pull clear. And they'll be coming to 22 laps to go here. And the 87 is going to try to see if he can pull away now the rest of the way. And really, I'll tell you what, for Rayner, he did that perfect. And here's the reason that the slide job's so good here especially. That outside line has been the faster line. It's been the defensive lane. So you figure you do the slide job, right? You get clear, you get up to the top lane. But then you don't actually have to worry about going down to block the guy because now you've got the defensive line. So if you can just get to the top, you've beat the guy up there. It makes it a lot easier to try to hold on to that track position. Nethery going to try to track him back down here. He'll have 21 laps to do it, make it 20 and a half here. And for James Harris, still almost 2 seconds back. William Mann Jr., Chris Logan, maybe going to try to settle the score here in the battle for fourth. As this race closes in towards the end, Kevin Kirchar 6th, and he is the last man on the lead lap at the moment. Brad Thacker 1 lap down. Charles Whitehead 1 lap down. Kevin Ward is the only driver who has retired from this race. And if we get a caution, it'd be a late one. Obviously, it would set us up for a crazy restart, but that would also put Thacker back on the lead lap. Whitehead potentially could get a wave around as well if any of these guys decide to go in for tires. But the unfortunate part here is, we talked about this being still overall a good night for Jason Nethery. If Nethery can hold on to second, he still gains a point here on James Harris. But, a good night for Nethery and a bad night for Brad Thacker, who is third in the point standings. For Brad Thacker, he really needed to try to close that gap tonight. He was a little bit further back. And with these smaller fields, it's already tough enough and really got to be consistent every single race. Thacker's had a ton of speed this season. It's looking like the result that he's going to likely have tonight is certainly going to hinder that progress. Unless, like I said, we get a caution and he gets that lucky dog. That could, of course, change everything around. And Whitehead 2 laps down, actually, so Thacker would be basically guaranteed in that lucky dog spot, assuming he wasn't part of the caution. 17 laps to go now. They're clicking off pretty quickly. Let's compare some lap times here for a couple of your front runners. Bryce Rayner, 22.6, 22.7 the last two. Nethery, 22.7, 22.8 over the course of the last 2 laps. So about a 10th slower. James Harris, 22.7, 22.8. So he's pretty close to Nethery, but it looks like Nethery still a little bit faster there. William Mann Jr. that last lap, a little bit quicker than James Harris. Chris Logan, last 2 laps, has actually been a little bit quicker than William Mann Jr. So a lot of things to watch here, even as we're coming down to the end. But one thing that's looking more and more certain is a man who could be taking on the trophy here tonight. Track temp, by the way, still in the upper 70s. No big changes there. So for Bryce Rayner, all he's got to do here really is hold on for another 15 laps. But more importantly, he's going to run these next 14 laps as quick as he possibly can because he wants to get to that white flag in order to make this race official. But while we got a chance, how about we talk real quick about what the schedule is looking like coming up for these guys next week. We're going to head off to Stafford Motor Speedway. It'll be the first time that I've seen these cars at that track, so it should be a good one there. Then it's off to South Boston. And I think that's another track that a lot of drivers like before we head to Slinger Speedway, a little bit more technical of a short track. Then it's off to another one of the bigger short tracks in Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway. Bristol, the second to last race of the season. That'll be on December 2nd. And then 5 Flags, going to round things up. And that will be on December 9th. And that is, of course, home to the Snowball Derby, one of the most famous late model racing tracks. So I know a lot of guys excited for that one as well. If you're just tuning in, you're watching the Grindstone Developments Late Model Stock Tour from Lucas Oil IRP, closing in on what will be 12 laps to go. Bryce Rayner leads the way. He's led the most laps so far here tonight. Jason Nethery 2nd, James Harris 3rd, William Mann Jr. 4th, and Chris Logan looking for one of his season best finishes here tonight in that 5th position. Part of me wonders with that competition caution. Well, actually, maybe I'll put it the opposite. Part of me wondered with that competition caution, was it going to potentially cost Bryce Rayner a chance of winning this race? The answer is no. He shows you that he's got enough speed on the short run and long run to make it happen. But overall tonight, I think it really was the long run speed that did it for him. And still got to give a tip of the hat to Jason Nethery. I mean, he's only fallen about a half a second back, maybe a little bit more, but he's got a damaged race car and 2 very, very old tires on it as well. So the fact that he hung around as long as he did is already impressive enough. And I almost wonder if that's why earlier Nethery had been kind of sitting back a little bit, just taking it easy. If he knew about this competition caution coming and maybe had taken tires after that first caution, was just trying to kind of be easy with him so that he could flip track position once we got to this point. But we're now closing in on single digits here. Going to be 9 laps to go this next time around. Bryce Rayner continuing to look stout up front in his Chevy. We'll go back here, see if there's any more battles shaping up. I think the field is just about set for the rest of the night. I think the only battle that I could really see maybe trying to shape up here by the end would be these two. Chris Logan and William Mann Jr. potentially going at it one more time, but for Chris Logan here, he's been fast, but he's starting to run out of time. He's got to make this move happen here. He's got to make it happen soon. Makes you wonder if anybody else took notes or already had plans on trying the slide job. I think for Chris Logan here, do exactly what Rayner did if he caught what he did. And that was, of course, get the big run on exit, get close to the guy by the entry to the next corner, and then ship it in on the inside, get clear, and get up to that outside line where you can play some defense. I'll tell you what, Logan very smooth on the throttle. A little bit more contact right there for William Mann Jr. Allows him to close the gap up just a little bit more. We'll get back to that battle in just a moment, but up front, the gap has flattened out between first and second, right around 0.6 of a second. Bryce Rayner leads. Jason Nethery still second. But I don't think Nethery's going to have any sort of second win here in trying to track down the 87. I don't think he's got the tires left to do it. And so for Rayner, now just 5 laps away from seeing that ever so wanting white flag, as a driver wanting, that is, to, of course, make the race official so you don't have to worry about a late caution messing up your plans. For the 55 of Harris, I didn't really make mention of this tonight, but I was thinking about it the whole time. About the paint scheme he's got on board. Very, very cool looking Halloween paint scheme. And actually, zoom this in for you real quick. He's got the jack-o'-lantern face on the front. Got the orange and black colors. Very, very cool looking scheme just in time for the season. And for James Harris, figure by next Tuesday, Halloween will have passed, so likely only going to be a 1-week scheme, but we'll have to see if he keeps it around one more week or not. As we go back up front, that gap now up to a second, and I think we're at the point for Jason Nethery where he's either lost all of his stuff or Bryce Rayner knows that we're within the point where he's just going to go full push. As you see the 51 of Charles Whitehead, really the last lap car here that the 87 should have to deal with. Charles Whitehead stays well up top and will not hinder the leaders here at all. So for Bryce Rayner now, closing in on less than 2 miles to go here at Lucas Oil. And he'll take 2 laps to go as he crosses the line this time. 1 more lap to make things official. And for Bryce Rayner, think about that 1 win that he's got on the season and then not making a couple of races so far. Boy, I'll tell you what, tonight he looked like we were back in the Truck Series a couple seasons ago where he was just absolutely dominant. Nobody could find anything for the 87 here tonight. As he rounds off at turn 4, he's going to see the white flag. That means this race is official. 1 lap to go for Bryce Rayner. And at this point, it's got a 2-second gap. It's basically a Sunday drive. He's going to bring it home. I said it before, but I'll say it again. Bryce Rayner has forever been one of the most consistent guys in the series. He's been able to figure out every car that these guys have ever been in. And tonight, he had everybody else figured out off of turn 4. Second time this season, Bryce Rayner goes to victory lane at Lucas Oil. What a win for the driver of the number 87. Second win of the season. Tip of the hat, too, to Jason Nethery, who takes home second tonight. James Harris will bring home that 3rd spot. See if we can get a better angle here for your race winner as he brings it around. And you see James Harris going to give him a little victory bump right there. And bring it around here right in front of the virtual fans. And talked about the one thing that a lot of guys haven't seemed to figure out in this car is how to do a burnout in it. Let's see. He's trying. He's going to have to give it a little reverse. A little clutch, a little gas. Has he got it? He does. He's got it spinning. As soon as you get it spinning, he'll be able to keep it going from there. What a win for Bryce Rayner. While he continues to celebrate, we're going to take a look at your finishing results here tonight. The race winner, again, is Bryce Rayner. Jason Nethery takes home second, and it's another podium finish for James Harris. William Ed Jr. finishes in fourth tonight. Chris Logan fifth. Kevin Kirchar sixth with Brad Thacker seventh. Charles Whitehead eighth. Kevin Ward in ninth, and Eli Childs, of course, not in the race tonight. He was race control. With that, we're going to go grab your top three for interviews. We'll start first with your race winner. Stick with us. We'll be right back here at Lucas Oil. All right, going to kick things off first here tonight with your race winner, the driver, the number 87, Bryce Rayner. Bryce, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Oh, yeah, I got you, Austin.
Well, you take home the win here tonight. You missed out last week, but certainly didn't miss any sort of speed. You come here tonight and you dominate just about. I mean, I know we had the competition caution, but did you feel like if we had long runs tonight, you were going to be as dominant as you were?
Oh, my God. There's so much to unravel in this race. I could be talking for hours, but no, this competition caution kind of screwed me up. I'm not going to lie. I know I had the field kind of beat there. I mean, once I kind of sat there for a little bit in front of James and kind of let him ride behind me, I was saving. So it was super easy to save by trying to defend the position from behind. It's so much more difficult to try to save while trying to get by traffic and position cars. So there's a lot back and forth between those two. But I was just, that first run, I was just trying to save, and when he was falling off a cliff, I saw the lap times. I mean, I was 6/10, maybe 5/10 quicker every single lap. I don't think I ever got to the 22.9s. I got into the 22.8s for a little bit, but that's just because I had some bad laps. But overall, I felt really, really good. So it's awesome to win the race before Martinsville, which wasn't broadcasted. And then to miss Martinsville kind of stinks. I had to work an overnight shift, so wasn't able to race there. But to come back strong, lead a bunch of laps, make some great passing. Me and James had a heck of a battle, same as Jason. So it was all fun for sure. Competition caution is for the fun of it, and we definitely had fun. Yeah, I just want to thank PGR eSports, you as well, Austin, for putting us on for 8 or 9 cars. I know low car count is, say this, say that about it, but it gives some really, really good racing. And if we get 15, 16, 17, whatever it is, and have this kind of racing, oh my gosh, this league could be so much more. So just want to shout out you guys up in the booth, James Harris, all the admins, Eli for sticking around for the race control, even though he didn't have to do much. Still good to have him back and talk to him. I haven't talked to him for a while, so shout out to him as well for being back with us for race control. All the admins, Grindstone developments, and then on the other oval side, Team Conti Sim Performance, Martin PC, Digital Sim Sports, all my family who watches, and it was great to win this one, and we'll try to keep fighting for some wins.
Absolutely. And Bryce, we appreciate you talking to us. Congrats again on the race win, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Austin.
All right, now that's going to bring us up to your second place finisher here tonight, the driver, the number 34, Jason Nethery. Jason, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
What's going on, Austin?
Well, it's another podium for you here tonight, but man, for a little while there, it looked like you had a shot at winning the race. What more do you think you needed to try to hold off the 87?
Save some damn tires. That was my biggest fallback tonight. First half before the competition caution, I saved enough tires. I was catching everybody, and I didn't learn my lesson in the second half. I got the lead after taking 2 tires instead of 4, and I just kept pushing it, trying to keep that lead. Just didn't work out for me.
Well, maybe not, but you still bring home a good podium finish, and you finish, more importantly, ahead of James Harris. You're sitting second in the point standings right now, but I believe that closes it within 5 points now of James Harris. So how important was that here tonight, and what's kind of the game plan going forward, knowing that you're that close in the championship standings?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the game plan is just show up every day and try to keep a clean car. Definitely got nervous early when got in a wreck there, but kept it clean the rest of the way. And really, that's the game plan from here on out. Just show up every night and try to get in the top 10, top 5.
Sounds like a plan. Well, Jason, we appreciate you talking to us tonight. So before we let you head out to go celebrate the second place finish, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, Bryce for another great race. It's always fun racing him. Grindstone Developments for sponsoring the series, of course. James, Kevin, the other admins for putting us on. And teammates at Midpack Racing and the family for putting up this awesome hobby.
And Jason, thank you for talking to us. Congrats once again on that second place win, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
I appreciate it, Austin.
All right, now that's going to bring us to your third and final podium finisher here tonight. That's the 55 of James Harris. James, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
I do.
Well, man, you finished third here tonight. First week that it didn't seem like at the end you dominated the entire race, but overall, you still had a shot. What more do you think you needed after the competition caution?
Practice, because, all season long at all these tracks we've raced, you can really drive the heck out of these things, and it doesn't really wear their tires too bad, at least in my driving style. But for some reason tonight, man, it was tearing up that right front. And I think what hurt me was going to the back there at the beginning after that little incident, and I had to burn the hell out of my tires to get to the front. And by then, I didn't have nothing left for him.
No, but it was still a good hold on, especially at the end. I mean, you think about the fact that you and Bryce Rayner got into it a couple of times. I know it was just hard racing, but, we didn't have any cautions. We went on a long green flag run. And look at the finishing positions. Knowing that Nethery gets 1 point on you here in the championship standings, does it change the mindset going forward? Does it put any pressure?
Not really, because here on Slinger Speedway, I'm going to miss that race. I'm going to be out of the country. So Nethery is probably going to take over the points lead at that point. So at this point, all I can really do is just try to finish first or second every race, and hopefully that'll give me enough points, even with a drop race or two, to stay up there. So at this point, we're just seeing how many wins we can get and just having some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's another podium for you here tonight. So, James, before we let you head out, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
I'm going to thank my wife, Courtney, for watching all the races and supporting my habit. Kevin Kirscher with Blackstone Management, Grindstone Developments, Texar Federal Credit Union, and Champion Power Equipment.
And James, thank you, of course, for talking to us. Congrats again on the podium, and hopefully we'll see you back here next week.
All right, man. Thanks.
I know James said he had to miss a couple of races. Just realized, I don't know if he said it was next week or a couple weeks after that. Nonetheless, though, great race here tonight, even though it was a small field, and Bryce Rayner is the man who takes home the trophy tonight. We'll be back next week, but as always, I hope everybody enjoyed. That's going to wrap up our coverage here tonight from Lucas Oil. That's it for